carrying silent battles, the most overlooked unwritten rule of life? Everyone you meet is carrying something you can't see, and they're doing their best to carry it quietly. It might not show on their face. They still smile. They still show up. But behind the eyes, behind the hello, there's weight. You've likely felt it yourself. Days when the world asked you to keep going while you were falling apart inside. But we forget. We forget others are living that too. So we get impatient. We judge. We snap over a delay or take offense at a tone. But what if we paused? What if the rule we followed was, assume someone is struggling, even if they don't say it? Because when someone's rude, they might be grieving. When they're distant, they might be anxious. When they're late, they might be fighting just to leave the house. This doesn't excuse cruelty, but it invites compassion. It makes room for softness in a world that often forgets to be gentle. Sometimes the kindest thing you can say is nothing, just a nod, a smile, a little more patience. That small kindness may be the only one they get today. And here's the thing, they'll remember it. Not the words, maybe, but the way you didn't push, the space you gave, the quiet mercy of being seen, even when they didn't ask. Everyone is carrying silent battles. Make kindness your default, even when it's not returned. Especially when it's not returned. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. The hidden power of win-win. Thinking most people approach conflict like it's a scoreboard. Someone's right, someone's wrong. Someone wins. Someone walks away quietly resentful. It's not always loud, but it shows up. In tension that lingers, in messages left unread, in friendships that slowly fade because someone felt unseen. We're taught, without words, that protecting our corner means taking space from someone else. But what if that's not true? What if the real power move isn't winning, but widening the table so everyone gets a seat? Win-win thinking isn't soft, it's smart. It's seeing that short-term victory can sometimes cost you long-term peace. It's knowing that compromise doesn't mean losing. It means you value the relationship more than the argument. Think of two people fighting over one slice of cake. They cut it, argue over which half is bigger, but a win-win mindset might ask, do we even want the same part? One wants the frosting, the other likes the sponge. Suddenly there's enough for both, because they stopped competing and started understanding. This isn't just about cake, it's about how we show up in relationships, in work, in life. Win-win doesn't mean you always get your way. It means you're willing to listen, to flex, to ask, what would feel fair to you? It builds trust, it disarms defenses, and over time, people remember you not as someone who beat them, but as someone who stood beside them. Try it. Next time a disagreement flares, pause. Instead of planning your next move, ask a better question. What outcome would work for both of us? It won't always be perfect, but it will be human. And in a world that rushes to win, sometimes the rarest victory is walking away connected, not corrected. Effort is the invisible hero. When we admire someone's success, we often skip to the highlight reel. We say things like, wow, you nailed it. You're so gifted. That came out perfect. But here's the thing. Perfection doesn't show the whole story. And talent? Talent doesn't sweat at 2 a.m. Effort does. There's a quiet kind of heroism in the part no one sees. The hours, the doubts, the drafts they deleted, the moments they almost gave up, but didn't. Praising outcomes feels good, but if that's all we notice, people start to believe they're only worth something when they win. And what happens when the outcome doesn't show up? When the launch fails, the grade slips, the goal is missed by inches? That's when effort matters most, because effort is still there, holding the weight of trying. There's a deeper kind of compliment, one that says, I saw how much heart you put into this. I noticed the thought behind your choices. You stayed with it. That matters. This kind of praise doesn't vanish in failure. It plants roots. It builds a mindset. The kind that learns from falling, that grows through challenge, that keeps going when the crowd's gone home. This isn't just psychology, it's humanity. We all want to feel seen not just for what we achieve, but for how we keep showing up even when it's hard. So the next time you want to lift someone up, don't stop at the finish line. Compliment the path they took to get there. Because when you praise effort, you're not just rewarding success. You're helping someone become the kind of person who doesn't give up, no matter the outcome. And that's worth everything. Own your slice. Conflict feels personal, like a test you didn't study for, where the goal is to be right, not to understand. We brace, we defend, we list the ways they got it wrong. But the conversation stalls. No one hears, no one shifts, no one heals. And here's the quiet truth. Almost no argument is entirely one-sided. Even when you're 90% right, there's still a slice that's yours. Owning your slice doesn't mean taking all the blame. It means you go first. You soften the air. You say, here's where I could have done better, even if it's small, especially if it's small. Psychology calls it reciprocity. When you take a step toward humility, the other person often does too. Walls lower, tone shifts. It stops being a contest and starts being a conversation. Imagine this. You and a coworker had tension. Instead of leading with, "You misunderstood me," you try, "I realize I cut you off." That probably made things harder. That moment, simple, honest, changes the temperature. Or at home, your partner's upset. You feel misunderstood, maybe even attacked. But you pause and say, "I got defensive. I wasn't really listening." Suddenly there's room for their voice and for yours. Owning your slice tells the other person, I care more about connection than control. It's an act of maturity, not surrender. It doesn't guarantee they'll own theirs, but it raises the chance. It shows you're not here to win, you're here to repair. So next time things get hard, start there. Find your slice, no matter how small. Put it on the table, not to fix everything, but to open a door. Because real resolution doesn't come from proving your point. It comes from proving you care. Feel it with them. Someone says, "I'm just done today." And without meaning to, you're already reaching for a fix. Have you tried taking a break? Maybe you just need more sleep. It'll get better. But here's the thing. Most people aren't asking for solutions. They're asking to feel less alone in what they're feeling. There's a simple shift that changes the whole conversation. Mirror the feeling first. Fixes can wait. It sounds like this. That sounds really overwhelming. Yeah, that's a lot to carry. Sounds like today just drained you. No instructions, no strategies, just presence. This doesn't mean parroting back their words. It means meeting their emotion with calm recognition, like holding up a mirror so they can see they're not invisible. Psychologically, it matters because when someone feels validated, their brain begins to regulate. They exhale, they open up, they shift from survival to reflection. Go in too soon with advice and it can sound like correction, like you're saying, "You shouldn't feel this way," even when that's not what you meant. But if you mirror first, you show them, it's okay to feel how you feel. No need to justify it, no need to fix it right now. This approach creates trust. It slows things down. It says, "I'm here with you in this," instead of "I need you to feel differently." And when they're ready, when the emotion has space to breathe, that's when the solutions can come in, not as instructions, but as an offering, a soft bridge forward. So next time someone vents, resist the rush. Listen for the feeling, name it gently, let them know they're safe to feel it. Because before people need your advice, they usually just need your understanding. Feel it with them. Fixes can wait. Prioritize presence over ping. The first time it lands, it's funny. The third time, it's familiar. The fifth time, It's just noise. Humor, at its core, runs on surprise, and repetition slowly drains the surprise out of it. You've probably felt it. A friend tells the same joke at every gathering, or someone online posts the same one-liner in every comment thread. It used to feel alive. Now it feels rehearsed. Psychologists call this habituation, the brain's tendency to tune out things it's seen too often. What was once sharp becomes background, predictable. But keeping humor fresh isn't about being funnier. It's about being present. The best laughs come not from a perfect punchline, but from shared recognition. That blink of a moment when you and someone else notice the same strange, beautiful, ridiculous thing at the same time. That's connection. That's life. Unfiltered. It's why your funniest friend isn't always the wittiest. They're just awake. They're tuned in. They say what fits right now, not what worked last year. Fresh humor is like jazz. It riffs, it adapts, it listens. When you fall back on the same jokes, it can feel safe, like a script. But connection doesn't live in the script. It lives in the scene. So if your humor feels tired, maybe it's not about getting funnier. Maybe it's about looking around and noticing again. Notice what's weird, what's unexpected, what's real. Because the best laughs don't come from routine. They come from presence, from being in the moment, with someone else who's there with you. Not the half-here kind. You're sitting across from someone, they're speaking, and your phone buzzes. You don't pick it up. Just a glance, barely a second, but the moment, it's already gone. Your body stayed, but your attention took a detour. Psychologists call it attention residue. Even when you come back, you're not fully back. Part of you is still in the ping, still in the preview, still wondering what you missed. Our brains weren't built for this. They don't multitask. They switch. Fast, shallow, distracted. And what we lose is depth. To prioritize presence over pings is to say, I choose now, not the next notification, not the next scroll, just this, the room, the voice in front of you, the quiet between words. It doesn't mean we abandon everything else. It means we become intentional. When you're with someone, silence your screen. When you're working, protect time like it's fragile. When you're alone, let the silence breathe. Because presence isn't passive. It's a decision, a signal, a way of saying, you matter more than the next thing. And that's rare. That's powerful. Studies show what we already feel. People remember how you listened, how you stayed, how you didn't rush to respond, but actually heard. In a world that keeps tugging at your sleeve, presence is a quiet kind of rebellion. It says, this is enough. Be where your feet are, not just in body, but in mind, in heart, in full. That's where real connection lives, right here, right now. The quiet strength of ownership. When things go right, we want to be seen. We want the spotlight, even if only for a second. And when things go wrong, the reflex is just as quick. Point somewhere else. Anyone but here. But real strength? It works the other way around. Pass the praise, hold the fault. It's not always fair, and it's definitely not easy. But it's what builds credibility when everything else feels uncertain. Because when you give credit, you create safety. You say, I see your work. You mattered here. And when you take responsibility, you say, I won't hide when it's hard. Psychologists call it emotional safety. The sense that people can show up without fear of being blamed or ignored. That matters more than most people realize. Think about a team, a leader who says, they made this happen. This was their win. That kind of praise doesn't shrink you, it lifts you all. And when the outcome's not so good, a leader who says, that's on me, I should have caught it, earns trust that no title can buy. This isn't just for offices. It applies at home, in friendships, in daily moments where no one's watching, but everyone's learning. Praise should be shared. Fault should be owned. because praise isn't a pie. There's enough for everyone. And fault? It's not a weakness. It's a moment. Handled well, it becomes your strength. People remember how you showed up when things were good, but they remember longer how you behaved when they weren't. Be the one who passes the credit freely. Be the one who holds the hard part when it's easier not to. That's what earns respect, not with noise, but with integrity. Kindness without permission. Rest is a strategy, not a reward. We say it all the time. Let me know if you need anything. I'm here for you. Just reach out. It sounds kind, and we mean it. But often, that help never comes. Not because we didn't care, but because they couldn't ask. Kindness without permission means not waiting for the green light. It means moving without being invited. Because when someone's struggling, even answering, "What do you need?" can feel like too much. From a psychological lens, this is about social friction. The tiny barriers that make it harder for someone to accept help. Vague offers add friction. Specific actions remove it. Think of it like this. Instead of "let me know if you need anything," try "I'm bringing dinner over tomorrow." No pressure to talk, just food. Or "here's a playlist I made. Thought you might need a soft landing today." These things, small, clear, low pressure, are easier to receive. They don't require explanation. They don't ask for emotional labor. They just arrive quietly, like a door already open. Kindness, at its best, isn't performative. It's practical. It's not what we say, it's what we do. You don't need grand gestures, just intention and presence. If someone's grieving, don't wait to be told what they need. If someone's overwhelmed, don't make them organize your help, because real kindness notices without being told, acts without being asked, and shows up not for applause but for relief. That's what makes it land. Not the offer, the action. Fuel, not a finish line. It's not the pause at the end. It's what makes the next step possible. We're taught to earn it, to power through, to rest only after we've done enough, finished enough, proved enough. But the truth? Rest isn't a reward. It's a resource. It's not what comes last. It's what keeps you going. In performance science, whether it's athletes, surgeons, or creatives, rest isn't seen as laziness. It's part of the system, built in, on purpose, because the brain, like the body, runs on limited fuel. Focus fades, decision-making stalls, creativity dries up when we keep pushing without pause. That's cognitive fatigue, not because we're weak, but because we're human. Psychologically, taking breaks before exhaustion hits boosts memory, sharpens thinking, and even improves mood. A 10-minute walk, looking out a window, stepping away from the noise. These aren't distractions, they're resets. Think of it like interval training. Work, pause, recover, repeat. That's how stamina is built. That's how quality stays consistent, yet so many people wait until they're fried, until something breaks, until they have no choice. But what if we didn't wait? What if we treated rest like hydration or sleep? Essential, non-negotiable. Not because we're slacking off, but because we're planning ahead. Rest builds resilience. Rest protects clarity. Rest lets you return, not just faster, but better. So when you feel the urge to delay it, to squeeze in one more hour, to earn just one more task, pause. Not because you're done, but because you're wise enough to know how to keep going. Fuel, not a finish line. That's what rest really is. Call it when you see it. Offer the last slice and mean it. Sometimes it's just a sentence. Nothing big, nothing rehearsed. "You're really good at this." Or, "You see things other people miss." But that moment, it stays, because someone saw something in you and said it. Call it when you see it. That's the whole idea. We think people know their own strengths, but most don't, especially when they're still figuring it out, still doubting, still learning how to believe in themselves. Psychology calls this self-efficacy, our belief in what we can actually do, and that belief grows when someone else points it out, clearly and specifically, not great job, but that idea you shared, it was sharp, and the room shifted when you said it, not you're smart. But you asked a question today that got to the heart of the problem. Those kinds of comments stick because they're not flattery, they're observations, truths someone else hadn't quite seen in themselves until you gave it a name. And the timing matters. Potential isn't always loud. It shows up when someone's trying, not when they've mastered it. That's when your words can either fade into the noise or shape a future. It doesn't take much. A sentence, a nudge, a mirror held up at the right time. So when you notice someone's spark, say it, let them hear it, let it land, because you never know what belief it might unlock, or what story they'll start telling themselves because of what you told them first. The last slice says a lot. One small action that leaves a lasting message. You're sitting with friends, dinner's almost over, one slice left, everyone sees it, no one moves, it's just pizza. But suddenly, it's more than that. That last piece becomes a moment, a quiet decision point, a tiny test of who offers, who waits, and who watches. The last slice says a lot. In psychology, this is about reciprocity and altruism. We're wired to notice fairness, to feel when someone shares something they could have kept. It's not about the food, it's about the gesture, the message behind it. I'm thinking of you, even in small things. But here's the key. You have to mean it. We all recognize the fake offers, the "you can have it if you want" that trails off into silence, the glance that says "please don't take it." People pick up on that. It's called costly signaling in behavioral science. True generosity costs something. That's why it counts. It's easy to give away what you didn't want. It's harder and more meaningful to give something you did. And when you do it with no strings, no guilt, no performance, just intention, people feel it. Those small gestures are the ones that echo. They shape how people see you when no one's keeping score. It's not about being selfless all the time. It's about choosing generosity in moments that matter, even when they're quiet, even when they're small. So when you offer the last slice, really offer it, mean it, because it's not about what's on the plate. It's about who you are when no one asks you to prove it. The power in the punchline. Timing matters more than truth. You say the wrong name. You walk into the wrong room. You make a bold statement, then realize you're totally wrong. And in that instant, your brain lights up in all the worst ways. Embarrassment, panic, the urge to vanish. But then, you smile, you laugh, you say, "Well, that was smooth." And just like that, the room breathes again. That's the power in the punchline. Laughing at yourself before anyone else can. It's not about humiliation, it's about control, about choosing how the moment lands and how others remember it. Psychologically, this is called self-deprecating humor. Used wisely, it's a tool of strength, not weakness. Because when you laugh at your own misstep, you signal something important. I'm not fragile. You don't have to walk on eggshells. You've diffused the tension, taken the sharp edge off the moment, and replaced it with shared laughter. It's emotional agility in real time, a way to flip awkwardness into connection. This is especially useful in public moments. When you spill coffee in a meeting, trip on stage, or fumble through an explanation, acknowledging it with a smile, a quick line, a lighthearted quip, creates psychological safety for you and for everyone else watching. But here's the line to walk. Don't overdo it. Don't become the punchline every time. It's not about putting yourself down. It's about showing you're okay, being human. The laughter doesn't make you smaller. It makes you real, approachable, unthreatening. People don't remember perfection. They remember presence. They remember the way you handled the stumble. So next time you mess up, and you will, don't hide from it. Make it yours. Make it funny. And move on. because in that laugh, you just turn discomfort into connection. When to speak matters, because even the truth needs a place to land. You can say the right thing and still have it fall flat, not because it wasn't true, not because it wasn't helpful, but because it was said too soon. That's the idea behind timing matters more than truth. It's not about hiding honesty, it's about reading readiness, the emotional space someone is in, and whether they can hear what you're trying to say. Because the truth needs timing, needs care. Psychologically, this is tied to emotional regulation. When someone is overwhelmed, their brain's not ready for logic. Not yet. They're flooded. And in that state, even the most sincere advice can sound like criticism. Imagine this. A friend just lost something big. A job, a relationship, a dream. And the first words they hear are, "It'll all work out. You'll grow from this." Maybe you believe that. Maybe they will. But in that moment, they don't need the big picture. They need space. They need breath. They need you to wait. Because truth without timing can feel like disconnection, like you didn't really see where they were. This applies in conflict too. You might be right, you might be fair, but drop your point mid-argument, and it becomes ammunition, not understanding. Wait until things cool, until both sides can listen, not just react. Knowing what to say is intelligence. Knowing when to say it, that's wisdom. Timing is emotional awareness in action. It means choosing to pause not out of fear, but out of respect. Because the best truths don't just hit hard, they land well. So next time you feel the urge to offer perspective, to correct, to advise, ask yourself, is this the truth and the moment? Or can it wait until the truth has a better chance to be heard? When compliments catch you off guard, the ones we believe most are the ones we never saw coming. You're in the middle of something ordinary, fixing a thing, explaining a thought, just being you. And then someone says, "You're really good at that." It wasn't planned, it wasn't formal. They just noticed, and that's why it stuck. Compliments land best when they're spontaneous, not because they're louder or bigger, but because they're real. In psychology, this taps into something called perceived authenticity. We're wired to trust praise that feels unfiltered, like it came straight from a thought, not a script. When someone says, "You always ask great questions," mid-meeting, or "You have a calming voice," during a casual chat, you believe it, because they weren't trying to compliment you. They were just present. And that presence makes all the difference. Rehearsed compliments can feel transactional, strategic, like they're trying to win something. But spontaneous praise, that feels earned, because it didn't ask for anything in return. The brain actually responds differently too. Unprompted compliments trigger trust, gratitude, even long-term memory. That one sentence someone said 5 years ago, you still remember it, not because it was big, but because it felt true. Timing matters here. The best compliments happen in the moment, right after someone does something worth noticing. Wait too long, and it feels like a checkbox. Say it as a routine, and it sounds like a habit. Spontaneity isn't careless, it's mindful. It says, "I saw that," right then, and it mattered. So try noticing in real time. Say the thing when you feel it, because a well-timed, quiet compliment can echo louder than the loudest applause. Ask again, mean it, because sometimes the second question is the real one. You ask someone, "Hey, how are you?" And they smile. Say, "I'm fine." And the moment moves on, but something feels off. In psychology, there's a concept called emotional masking. It's what we do to keep it together, to look composed, strong, or simply unbothered. "I'm fine" is often a reflex, not a truth, not a lie. Just a way of saying, "I'm not ready to go there." And that's where the second check-in matters. Ask again, gently, calmly, without pressure. It doesn't have to be big. Are you sure you're okay? Or, I just want you to know. You can tell me if there's more. That second question, it does something the first one can't. It shows that your care wasn't surface level, that you noticed, that you stayed. People often don't open up because they're not sure it's safe to, or they don't want to burden anyone. But when you check in twice, you're giving them permission. Not a demand, not a fix, just a quiet offer. You're not alone here. Psychologically, this builds what's called emotional safety. The first ask, it tests the surface. The second, it proves you'll still be there if they dip beneath it. And sometimes, that's all someone needs to take a breath and say something real. So check in twice. It doesn't take much. Just a pause, a second look, a little more stillness. Because what you're really saying is, I see you, even past the smile. And sometimes that second ask becomes the first moment someone feels heard. The merge that matters. You're stuck in traffic, running late. Every inch of movement feels like a victory. Then, a car blinks its turn signal. They want in. You have a choice. Tighten the gap, or tap the brakes. It's just a second. One car. No big deal, right? But here's the thing. Psychologists call this pro-social behavior, doing something kind without any guaranteed return. You're not getting money, recognition, or even a thank you. But what you are doing is saying, we're all in this together. These little decisions, they keep society running smoothly. Not the traffic lights, not the signs, but the unspoken agreements between people. When you let that one car in, you're reinforcing something much bigger than road etiquette. You're signaling empathy. You're saying, I see you, I'll make room. And here's what's wild. Studies show that these small cooperative moments, yielding a spot, holding a door, even a simple nod of courtesy, can actually lower stress, build trust, and influence the behavior of people who witness it. In traffic, it's called the zipper merge, one in, one forward. Everyone gets through faster when we take turns. But this isn't just about highways. This is life. Crowded sidewalks, group conversations, shared spaces. Letting someone in, whether in a car or in a moment, isn't weakness. It's quiet strength. So next time you're in that jam and someone signals their hope to move forward, consider giving them space. Because when one car merges, so does a little more patience, a little more grace, a little more humanity. And in a world that often feels gridlocked, that small move might be what keeps everything flowing. Say it so they feel it. You type a message. You mean it to sound warm, light, maybe even funny. But on the other end, they read it flat. Or worse, wrong. That's the thing about text. It's efficient, but it's stripped bare. No tone, no timing, no texture. Psychologists call it paralinguistic loss, the missing sounds that carry meaning, the sigh before a sentence, the quiet smile in someone's voice, the way a pause says more than a paragraph. Voice notes bring that back, because tone isn't decoration, it's direction. It tells people how to receive what you're saying. Without it, a sure could mean yes, no, maybe, or why are you bothering me? When a message carries emotional weight, comfort, apology, hesitation, hope, text flattens, voice deepens. And here's what's beautiful about that. Even when you're far away, even when you don't have all the right words, your voice carries care. It says, this matters enough to say aloud. I'm not hiding behind convenience. I want you to feel it, not just read it. Not every message needs a voice note, but the important ones, the messy ones, the ones that could be misunderstood, they deserve sound. Because sometimes clarity isn't about spelling it right, it's about sounding human. And voice, even crackly, awkward, imperfect voice, connects in ways text never will. So next time the message matters, don't just send it, say it. Say no, like you mean yes to the person declining. Something doesn't have to mean closing the door, but how you close it, that's everything. That's the idea behind say no, like you mean yes to the person. Because in psychology, How we deliver a no often matters more than the no itself. It's rooted in empathy, in reciprocity, in asking yourself, if the roles were reversed, how would I want this to land? We've all felt the sting of being brushed off, a cold, I can't, a silence that follows a request, or worse, no response at all. But decline doesn't have to mean disconnection. A simple, thanks so much for thinking of me. I'm not able to help right now, but I'd love to stay in the loop, can do two things at once: set a boundary and protect the relationship. This works in work, in friendships, in invitations you can't accept, because saying no with clarity and care says, this isn't about you, it's about capacity, not value. Psychologically, it preserves what researchers call relational trust, the sense that even when someone can't show up how we hoped, they still value the connection. And here's the bonus: when you practice kind declines, you give others permission to do the same. You normalize boundaries without guilt. Over time, people remember how your no felt, not that it was a no, but that it respected their ask and honored your truth. A good no doesn't shut things down. It leaves dignity standing. Make room before you're asked. You don't need a sign or a tap on the shoulder to know when you're in the way, whether it's a subway exit, a hallway, or a tight queue at a coffee shop. Making room before you're asked is one of the quietest forms of social grace. In psychology, this reflects pro-social behavior, small actions done to help others even when there's no reward. It's not about being overly helpful, it's about reading the room or the sidewalk. The mental muscle behind it is called situational awareness, noticing who's rushing behind you, recognizing your backpack might be taking up an extra seat, realizing you've stopped in a doorway without thinking. When you step aside without being prompted, you're not just being courteous, you're saving someone else from that awkward dance of hesitation, from having to ask, sidestep, or feel unseen. These are the micro moments that keep public life flowing. They show others that you're not the main character in every setting, you're part of a shared space and you act like it. And here's the ripple effect. In behavioral science, it's called reciprocal altruism. People who experience these quiet kindnesses tend to pass them on. One small move sets off a wave of small reliefs, because grace isn't always grand. Sometimes it's just one step to the left, one bag lifted out of the way, 1 second of thought that makes a shared space smoother for everyone. It won't be remembered, but it will be felt, and that's what makes it matter. Share the clouds, not just the sunshine. You ask someone how they're doing, and they smile, say, I'm good, even when they're not. We've all done it. Chosen the highlight reel over the real reel, because sharing good news feels safe, but sharing struggle feels risky. Yet in psychology, there's a concept called emotional authenticity, the idea that connection deepens not just through joy, but through truth, and sometimes that truth looks like clouds. Share the clouds as often as the sunshine. It doesn't mean turning every conversation into a therapy session. It means giving people a more honest window into your world. I'm a bit overwhelmed today, but I'm hanging in. Or, not my best morning, but I'm glad to see you. These small admissions create something powerful, psychological safety. They tell others, you don't have to be perfect here. I'm not. It also breaks the illusion that everyone else is always fine, that you're the only one with messy feelings or hard mornings. And when someone else hears your honesty, they're more likely to offer theirs. It's called emotional reciprocity. When one person lowers the mask, the room gets a little lighter. Sunshine is beautiful, but clouds are honest, and both are part of the sky. So the next time you're tempted to say everything's great when it's not, consider this. Someone might be needing your honesty more than your perfection, and you might just find that the cloud you shared made someone feel a little less alone in their weather. Let the rain in too. We've all done it. Posted the sunny moments, texted all good when it wasn't, laughed in a room while quietly unraveling inside, because sharing joy is easy. It's light, it's welcomed. But pain, that feels heavy, like it needs permission. Let the rain in too. In psychology, this touches on emotional congruence. When your outer expression matches your inner experience, it's one of the quiet foundations of trust. When we hide every hard feeling, we send the message, intentionally or not, that only the bright stuff belongs. That sadness is a private burden. That doubt, fear, burnout should be kept behind the curtain. But that's not connection, that's performance. Real connection asks for something else. A little courage, a little softness, the kind of honesty that says, I'm not at my best today, but I'm here. It's not about making pain your personality. It's about giving the hard parts a seat at the table, so others know they're not alone in theirs. Because when you share a cloud, you don't dim the room, you just tell the truth. And often, that truth is the beginning of something stronger. So next time you feel the urge to keep it all in, ask yourself, what would it feel like to let just a little rain in? You might be surprised, not by how others respond, but by how much lighter you'll feel for not having to carry the storm alone. Correct quietly, celebrate loudly. Nobody likes being spotlighted for a mistake, even when it's well meant, even when it's helpful, but almost everyone lights up when their effort is seen, especially when others are watching. Correct quietly, celebrate loudly. It's not just a leadership tip, it's a principle rooted in emotional safety. In psychology, public correction can trigger what's called a social threat response. It taps into fear of judgment, of exclusion, of being seen as less than in front of peers. Even soft feedback can feel sharp under a spotlight. That's why private coaching works. It protects dignity. It gives space for reflection, not defense. When someone hears, here's where I think you can grow. In a quiet moment, they're far more likely to listen than brace for impact. But flip it. When something goes right, say it out loud. That praise, let it be heard. Because recognition is social glue. It motivates. It teaches others what's valued. And it builds trust in the most organic way. I saw how you handled that. You really stepped up. Say it in the meeting. Say it in front of the room. Let the moment land where it matters. Because used together, private correction and public praise don't just guide behavior, they shape culture. One that says, we grow in safe spaces and we shine together. Don't jab where they're already bruised. Some jokes spark laughter, others land like a quiet hit. And the line between the two, it's thinner than it seems. Don't jab where they're already bruised. In psychology, we call this emotional context. It's the invisible layer under every interaction, how someone feels before you even speak. Teasing can be bonding, but only when the person on the receiving end feels safe, seen, and steady. When someone's already shrinking from stress, shame, or self-doubt, your "just kidding" can echo louder than you think. It doesn't feel like humor, it feels like exposure. You'll notice it in small group moments. They mess up a word, or stay quiet too long, and someone jumps in with a joke. The room laughs, but they shrink just a little more. The shoulders dip, the eye contact fades, and something changes that doesn't come back quickly. Because teasing, when it lands wrong, doesn't toughen people up, it isolates them, even if the intent was harmless. That's why good humor, the safe kind, relies on timing and balance. When someone feels secure, they can laugh at themselves with you. But when someone's pulling back, the best thing you can offer isn't a punchline, it's pause. Psychological safety isn't about avoiding jokes, it's about noticing the moment when jokes don't belong. So before you tease, ask yourself, are they laughing with me or just trying to get smaller? Empathy means reading the room and knowing when to lift someone up instead of piling on. Because people remember how it felt long after they forget what was said. Respect privacy. If it's not yours, keep it that way. You spot a phone left unattended or overhear a private story shared in trust. What do? Psychology teaches us these moments test more than morals. They test our respect for boundaries and identity. If it's not yours, don't take it. If it's private, don't share it. At the heart of this is ownership psychology, the way we mentally and emotionally decide what belongs to us and what doesn't. When someone shares personal thoughts, they're trusting you with their vulnerability. Sharing without permission breaks that trust and can feel like betrayal. This isn't just gossip, it's about protecting someone's control over their own story and identity. The same goes for physical items. Even small violations chip away at psychological safety. Research shows that these breaches, whether emotional or physical, can damage relationships over time. Choosing integrity when no one's watching strengthens your identity and builds internal trust. Respect grows in everyday moments, especially those unseen. Keep apologies clear. Say sorry without the story. When you hurt someone, the natural urge is to explain, to add context. But psychology shows that long apologies often lose their power. Apologize without a paragraph. Focus on accountability, not justification. A simple, sincere, "I'm sorry I hurt you. That wasn't okay," speaks louder than "I'm sorry, but I was tired and stressed." Adding reasons can feel like deflecting responsibility. Clear, direct apologies validate feelings and open space for healing. Whether it's a harsh word or being late, keeping it short shows you respect the impact, not just your intent. Psychologically, brief and honest apologies build trust and invite genuine repair. Play the win-win, choose positive sum games. Some interactions feel like battles. One wins, the other loses. But not every situation has to be zero-sum. Positive sum games happen when everyone benefits. Think of coworkers collaborating. If they compete for credit, someone loses. But if they combine strengths, everyone shines. This mindset shifts us from "what can I get" to "what can we create together." Psychologically, positive sum thinking builds trust, sparks creativity, and makes cooperation a smart strategy. It's not always easy, but when possible, choosing mutual gain leads to results beyond what one person could achieve alone. Let them come at their own pace. Some people warm up instantly, others take time. Let people arrive at their own speed. This isn't about disinterest, but emotional processing styles. Psychology tells us people differ in attachment, anxiety, and introversion. Some need space to feel safe. In fast-paced environments, we mistake silence for disengagement. But true presence isn't always loud or immediate. Pressuring someone to open up can push them further away. Patience and availability create psychological safety. When people feel free to move on their own timeline, they show up more fully and authentically. Leave on a good note, make goodbyes. Matter. Walking away with a quick bye may feel routine, but psychology shows final moments stick. The recency effect means people remember endings most vividly. Goodbyes mark closure. Our minds crave resolution. A rushed or cold goodbye can leave someone unsettled, even after a good interaction. A small, thoughtful phrase like, "Take care, I'm glad we talked," can feel complete and genuine. Whether it's a phone call, meeting, or party, how you leave sets the emotional tone. Intentional goodbyes honor the time spent and leave lasting warmth. Hold their courage. Don't finish their sentence. When someone struggles to speak, it's tempting to jump in and help finish. But psychology warns, don't finish their sentence if it costs them courage. Vulnerability unfolds slowly. Pauses and restarts aren't confusion, but weighing risks. Interrupting steals control of their story and shifts power away from their voice. Even if you guess their words correctly, timing matters. Finishing for them can shut the door they were just opening. True emotional support means patience, letting them find their way in their own time.